that stuff out of the way. Well, I might need to move the lights in a little bit. The color looks slightly off. Hey, Graham, what's up? Oh, that's pretty darn close. Got the tea just about dead on. Just about dead on tonight. All right. Might need to tilt the camera down some more. We'll see. We'll see once I get the guitar on here. It's a good night for tea. I mean, every night's a good night for tea, really. At least until it gets really hot here. But during the winter months, I tend to drink a cup of tea every evening. This shirt makes me look fat. Probably because I am fat, but still, this shirt kind of shows it off. The camera adds 20 pounds. Oh yeah, let me go drop in Discord. Hey Rusty, what's going on? Go tell Facebook to, I suppose. If it doesn't crash the stream. That username, I swear, my man, it's amazing. But I've been doing all right. How have you been? Oh Lord. All right, let me jump over here, real quick, like. So I can tell the 3 people that will see my post on Facebook that I'm live. 2 of which are Alec and Keep Watch. Holy moly. There we go. Post button wouldn't come up. Come on. All right, there we go. Looks like that's good. Yeah, well, I don't have a guitar. I don't have a guitar hooked into an amplifier, so there's nothing to pick up the LEDs. Been able to tune in. Work's been kicking your ass. Yeah, I haven't seen you. Haven't seen you in a few weeks. Yeah, that'd be good. Extra RGB. You know, the keyboard itself doesn't cause enough hum. We need to get some more. We need to just line the desk and the ceiling. Just dangle some RGB strips on either side of me, all the way down to the floor from the ceiling. All right. So what we're going to do today is we're going to restring. I've been annoyed with the 10s on my Ibanez RG760 for a while, so I'm going to put some 9s on there and walk you guys how to restring a Floyd Rose. Apparently, though, Alec Pan sent me a message and said he's going to drop his guitar off with you to bring to me, so we'll probably be doing something fairly similar. I know we got to do some more setup work on his than we'll have to do on this one, so there'll be a bit more stuff involved, most likely. But sometime in the next week or so, we should probably be doing a restring maybe and a setup at least of Panaffel's guitar on stream, which will be really cool. Really, really, really cool. This will be kind of like a prologue to that. Some similar stuff we'll be going over in the process. Set of disco lights. No, my goal is to try to get this room less noisy. Less hum and buzz and whatnot. Mammoth Slinkies and 11s. No. I basically don't play anything heavier than 10s, and most of the time, like on 9 out of 10 guitars, I'm playing 9s. I would really actually like to go even lighter. It's just hard to consistently find the lighter gauges. On some guitars, I would like to try 8s, but on some guitars, I would like to try like the sort of Hendrix set, like the 9 to 36-ish type thing, like the extra light bass strings. Which that actually might have been something that would have helped the Siggy. Poor Siggy. The Siggy already resold though, so expect to see it, re-listed somewhere soon. Yeah, I took it back. I returned it Sunday? Maybe? Sunday or Monday, I can't remember. That's pretty bad. Every day is the same. And it was back up on the site yesterday, and then it was gone by the time I got up today around noon. But it's been, yeah, the price drop is pretty amazing. I mean, I think realistically, if the guitar didn't have the neck twist, that guitar would be worth $1,800, $2,000 maybe. With the twist in the neck, it's probably really realistically worth 12 to 14. Honestly, like for me, it's worth less because I can't set it up the way that I want it. If you play with higher action, it might not bother you, might not be an issue. You're still, I think, probably going to get some choking out in the higher frets because of it. But at 1089 from the 2899 they had on it, at 1089, I mean, anybody who knows anything about it is going to find that hard to resist, which is why it had been sold and returned like 2 or 3 times already. It sold. They price dropped it to like 17 and it sold and then got returned within a couple weeks, and then they price dropped it to like 14 and it sold and got returned within a couple weeks, and then they price dropped it to 1089, and that's when I bought it, and then I've just returned it and they relisted it at 1089 and it's resold, so expect to see it turn back up probably in a few more weeks. Either that or be listed on Reverb for like $3,000 or something stupid with no mention of the twist in the neck. The Guitar Center manager said, "Oh, well, yeah, I can see the twist in it, but just raise your action, just play with high action. That's not a problem. That should fix it." And I'm like, "Bruh, this guitar is not a guitar that is designed for a high action player. Cobalt 1154. Nah. Like even on guitars that I down tune, I don't really like 11s or 12s. All right. Designed for a no-action player. Hey-oo. That's way too real lately. RIP 2020. All right, let's see. Yeah, we might need to tilt the camera a little bit more. I'm going to move the lights a little bit closer too. All right, so I'm going to try tilting the camera down some and see if I can get a little better angle of the guitar. Move this light over here. Let me trip over some cables. Just leave it kind of wide angled. Yeah, that's it. Play the pedant. Play the pedant, Alec. Hold on a second, I want to check something. A little bit better. I still feel like we're a little dark. Should maybe move the camera over slightly too so you can see the headstock a little better. Hold on. No, there's not really room to do that. Playing with lighting. Probably need to find a safer place for the teacup too. Does that look okay to you guys? Can you see everything okay? Yeah, this is one of my favorite guitars. Well, I mean, do you need to see my face while I'm fiddling with stuff? Problem is now I just want to play it laying here. All right, let me go grab the string drawer. Turn this light around too. Fiddle face next emoji. Put some flat wounds on it. $9 to $40. All right. This is an interesting set. I think we're going to try. These. We've put these on a bunch of stuff lately anyway. So let's go for something different. R.I.P. PogChamp. What? Did they get rid of the emoji or something? There are too many. Geez, I do still have 6 sets of these though. But let's do these because this is talking about using a slightly lower tension set. This is 9 to 40. So we may have to do a little bit more tweaking. A little bit. You'll see it's not showing up for me, and in my chat I literally just see PogChamp. I don't see the emote at all. All right. Using the handy dandy Ibanez multi-tool. Alright, so I'm going to set all of the fine tuners to about the middle of their travel. So I have some room to adjust either way as needed. About like that. I'm going to be really nitpicky. What's happened? Where's my peg winder? Shoot, it's not over here. Well, already over here. Huh. Was he there or something? Did he get caught on video inside the rotunda or something? Or did he just say something stupid on Twitter? This, by the way, this is going to come in handy later, not for this guitar, but later on when we're doing cataloging of the guitars, this little UV light that it's going to be really useful. Let's see. What else do I need? I need something to block with. Ever say something not stupid on Twitter? Well, certain someone doesn't say anything on there anymore. At least for 12 hours. All I ever say on Twitter is the automatic posts by Streamlabs. Where is my block? Alright, so what I'm going to do next is I'm going to block the trim off. I'm going to put, if I can find my actual wooden block, I'm going to put it here up underneath the trim to hold it in place while we work on it. If I can't find it, I'll probably just use a 9-volt battery. It's close enough in size to the block, and it should work fine. In most cases, as long as you have a relatively deep recessed cavity. If you have a shallow recess, a 9-volt will push the trim up too much to really let you dial it in correctly. But these Ibanez have a pretty deep recess. I guess 9-volt it is. Global emojis not on the faces of actual people. Alright, that works just fine. Right, and that keeps the bridge held in place because when you have a recessed cavity like this, when we start loosening the strings up and taking them off, it's going to let that bridge pull down this way. Do I need... Yeah, everything... Boo should definitely be a global emoji, in my opinion. In my humble opinion. I mean, I know we're under 200 followers, but still, that's a freaking good emoji. Let me see. Let me decide. This guy could actually probably use some new saddles. That'll be a longer term project, though. They're still working. But they're getting a little bit grungy and rusty. I don't know. These look fairly clean. I don't see a lot of grime or gunk on them. Supposedly, the guy that I got it from in, was it November? I think I got this November of 2019, but supposedly he had just had it set up and cleaned up and everything. I don't know. A couple of these higher ones look a little bit dull. Maybe we'll do that. So what do you think? Should we take all the strings off and polish the frets? I'll have to tape it off and polish the frets, like we did with the What did we do that on? Was that on the Siggy or something? What guitar did we do that on recently? I don't even remember. No, it was my old Ibanez, my first guitar that we did that on stream. It'll make it take a little bit longer to get it back up to in tune. But we can certainly do it. Yes. Alright, let me go find the tape. Tape and steel wool and magnet pin. Now I've got a new idea. Actually, this will be a good trial run for it. Be a good trial run. I need to find somewhere better to put the T though, so I don't get steel wool in my T. Kind of running out of space. Put steel wool in my pickups. No. Let's make some room over here. Just remove the neck, nah. So I don't have anything to hold the other end of the neck in place. So it'll just be flopping around everywhere. I'm sure Jesse and Canton will do it for you. He's done it on other customers' guitars. I don't know if he's actually still there, because apparently the store owner didn't bring some of the employees back. You're not gonna get Max to do it for you? So speaking of Gibson, what's everybody's opinion on the Gibson acquisition of Mesa? You know, kind of I spoke about it, made my thoughts somewhat clear on it in the Discord, but I'm curious what everybody else thinks. Yeah. Whoever did this stupid. I'm going to tie the string in a knot up at the tuner thing. Like Jesus Christ, it's a Floyd Rose. You don't need to do this. All you've done is made my life more difficult. Well, so let's think of companies that Gibson has acquired that they didn't ruin. I don't know. Because what you've got Tobias Bases, right? So Mike Tobias was one of the most important builders of boutique bases in the country. Pretty much ruined. Steinberger, ruined. Kramer, ruined. Um, Maestro, pretty much gone. Did they buy? They bought Oberheim, right? Pretty much gone. Uh, did they buy Baldwin pianos? They bought somebody that makes pianos. Um, and the reputation tanked. Uh, they buy. They were distributing Trace Elliott. I don't know if they bought Trace Elliott, but Trace Elliott's reputation was kind of crap anyway. At least as far as quality went, they made good sounding stuff, but it would always blow up. Um, I mean, even Epiphone. Epiphone was a premier instrument manufacturer in the U.S. Um, and I mean, not to diss Epiphone because Epiphone still makes stuff that's not terrible, but they took them from being, a very fine instrument maker to being a budget instrument maker. Um, so much so that when they tried to release higher end Epiphones, nobody would buy them. No, Hamer was purchased by Cayman, the same people that own Ovation and a few other brands, which was then purchased by Fender a few years ago, or bought out essentially. Several of their brands were. Who else? Flatiron mandolins. They ruined Flatiron mandolins. It was a kind of obscure one, but still. Basically, yeah, everything they've acquired, they've massively devalued and essentially ruined the reputation of the brand. And in the case of Mesa, it's both shocking because Mesa's a pretty large operation. I would say behind the likes of Taylor and Martin, they were probably the largest independent musical instrument manufacturer left in the country. Which now means probably have G&L, Ernie Ball, and then maybe Sir kind of coming up behind them. The Gibson bots are out in full force tonight. Damage control. That was weird though. In that case, I didn't even see the network adapter disconnect. The stream just dropped for a second. Well, you know, Randall is getting pretty old. And I mean, several other, you know, Stuart Spector retired and effectively sold the brand off recently. And several others too. The thing is, with Soldano's case, Mike Soldano, he sold it to a company essentially that makes other high end amps. Not a company with a reputation for completely ruining the reputations of everything they purchase. Hey, Pan, what's up? What are the differences between pickups? Uh, do you mean like pickup archetypes, like single coils versus humbuckers versus P90s versus, you know, whatever? Or do you mean specific models of pickup, you know, like between the Duncan Distortion and the Duncan Custom and the Duncan Jazz and the Duncan JB, et cetera, et cetera? Or different brands of pickup? When do you want to use what type? That's really all personal preference. Certain styles of music and styles of playing will tend to lean towards, you know, one or the other, but you'll find people using practically every type of pickup in practically every genre. You know, people who play metal and hard rock as a rule will tend to favor fairly high output and aggressively voiced humbucking pickups. But then you'll find guys like Ingve and stuff playing single coils for the most part. Even a few like the stoner and doom metal guys will be playing P90s. So comparatively, a humbucker, assuming the humbucker is comprised of coils with comparable output individually to the single coils that you're comparing to, the humbucker will have somewhat more output. It'll be a little bit hotter. It'll push your amp and or pedals a little bit more. You'll get a little bit more gain out of them. You tend to lose some high-end transient response though, so it tends to kind of roll off the high end and cause the mid-range to push through. Now, if you go with lower output humbuckers like vintage, you know, vintage PAF Gibson style humbuckers, you'll retain more of that high end. As the humbucker gets hotter, you tend to get more and more mids and less highs. A single coil, like a Strat type single coil, will usually have a lot of kind of bell like high end and a lot of sort of twang and cut to it, while the humbucker will be thick. A P90 is a somewhat different type of single coil in terms of its construction, and it tends to have output close to most humbuckers, at least till you get to the really hot side of things. But a more mid-rangey and aggressive kind of sound than a Strat type of pickup. There are bass pickups that behave the same way, but there are also bass pickups that are very different, like P-bass pickups, precision bass pickups, which are a split coil type of pickup. So instead of having two coils wired together side by side, like two single coils wired together side by side, which you can get for bass, this has a single coil that's essentially split into two components, which effectively gives us the hum canceling character of a humbucker, but not quite as much output. It's a pretty interesting design, actually. And Leo Fender revisited it with his Comanche model and a couple others with G&L. But you can find, you know, practically any type of pickup for guitar or bass, single coil, humbucker, kind of archetypes within those, especially with bass in particular. The Music Man humbucker is a common archetype, which is a humbucker that's wired where the coils are wired in parallel rather than in series, which tightens up the low end and makes the highs a little more crisp than a series mode humbucker would be. You also have, you know, jazz bass style single coils, which have dual poles for each string, which gives them a little bit better coverage than single pole type pickups like you see on the very early Fender basses. When you talk about active pickups, if you're talking about actual active pickups as opposed to passive pickups with an active preamp, active pickups like EMGs will use a very, very weak magnet compared to a passive pickup, so it doesn't really have any string pull. It doesn't have a really aggressive magnetic field on its own, but it'll have a little powered buffer that's powered by a battery inside of the pickup casing that then boosts the level up. And then, yeah, lace and aluminum pickups are a pretty unique design as well. Both the original lace sensors and the alumitones, they're very different. EMGs sound like, nah, dude, EMGs do not sound like mud. The 81 kind of sounds like mud. But pretty much all other EMGs are very clear and fairly balanced pickups. Like, you need to play some 85s or 89s or 60s. Or the single coils. I mean, the S's and SAs are amazingly chimey and glassy. All right, what were we doing? Oh, yeah. I'm going to tape off the pickups. I'm going to lower the pickups down so I can get them a little closer to flush mounted with the top. How big do we need? Probably about like this. And then tape over them. Yeah, the EMGs are, or at least the traditional EMGs anyway, are completely sealed. Feels like that's about as low as that's going to go. Yeah. Butterfingers. Fortunately, this guitar is already well played and dinged up, so I'm not too terribly worried. On a guitar in better condition or somebody else's guitar, usually I'll cover the top up and hold the screwdriver with 2 hands. I'm not getting any, I'm not showing any frame drops or anything, or any kind of issues on my end at the moment. Like my frame rate's pretty steady in the high 50s. My CPU is pretty low. So I mean, Streamlabs, in the very instant I say that Streamlabs is telling me that nothing is wrong, the network just drops. Let me try something here. It's doing like, so before it was just like turning itself off and I had to manually reconnect. What it's doing now are like these little flash disconnects where it's just doop off and then reconnects on its own before I can even click on it. Hmm. All right. So I'm going to try completely, or I'm going to completely seal off the pickup cavity. Because steel wool is sneaky. And make kind of little, scratch my finger on something. I don't know what. Make kind of little sarcophagi for the pickups. Drumming is turning you into a better guitarist. Yeah, it tends to. It tends to really, really help you develop a more steady sense of meter than you get just screwing around on your own on the guitar. All right, now I'm going to put something I mentioned last time. I'm going to put a little reverse piece of tape on each one so the sticky side is up, which helps catch some of the shavings, almost like flypaper. As they get pulled towards the pickup, they'll get stuck in the tape. And it helps a lot with general cleanup. Keep losing the end of the tape though. You don't really need it on the bridge pickup. Most of it won't make it to the bridge pickup, if any. And comparatively, usually, let's find something. Usually the bridge pickup doesn't pull anywhere near as hard as the single coils will, because the pole pieces are exposed. You know, on most single coils, the pole pieces are the magnets, at least traditional Strat style single coils. But put one on there for good measure. No, dude, this color is amazing. I don't know why you are so opposed to it, but it is the best. Heather Pearl. All right, let's see. We're all taped off. Let's get to polishing. A little bit of fret wear. Nothing terrible. It's not pink, it's cheerful black. bit of tarnish on the upper ends, the base side of these frets. White pickguard is the ugliest design on guitars. It depends. On some it looks fine. On others, I agree. Like rose gold, kinda. I mean, it's got a little bit of that kind of goldish pearl to it, but to me, it's like a pink that leans slightly to the lavender side. Like just a little bit more purple. Oh yeah, I forgot. I was going to try. Try this. Let's see. I wonder if I can hold on to them both better this way, like inside the bag. Yeah, I think that's actually a little tougher. These guys, these higher frets definitely need it a little bit. Looking at SGs. What a strange opinion. Somehow captured a string in my steel wool. I don't want to tear it barehanded. That's an irritating feeling. My little contraption is kind of working though. Edge there. Cramping my elbow up. There's a tiny bit kind of down at board level, but it can't really get to that this way. Need to go back at it with some Scotch-Brite or some such. Hey, Keep, what's up? Alright, that looks pretty good. Actually, does look better. It does look better. I'm taking my little magnet pen, going over the board, picking up any loose shavings. So you come up with a pretty good little dusting of them. I'm doing okay. I'm doing okay. Take this one. The bridge pickup really doesn't pick up much of any, especially when it's a humbucker. little bit of tape to get it off. And go back around again. Try to get in every little nook and cranny. This crap gets everywhere if you permit it to. Go back and forth over the body. Go up the edges. Go in between the pickups. Down around the neck pocket cavity. Get much of that stuff off of here, off the pin as we can too. Alright, should be done. Oh yes, check our mat down here too. You always shed a little bit onto the mat. Anybody tuning in now will be probably tremendously confused as to why I'm making stirring motions all around the guitar. I'm casting a spell. Oh yeah, selector switch. What I'm gonna do, I'm actually, when we polish this up in a minute, I'm gonna pull the knobs off and we'll just go over the whole body. Well, I mean, what I'm doing now, like the reason I'm doing this is I've pulled it off, pulled the strings off, and polished the frets up because the upper frets were getting a little bit grimy. A little bit of fret wear. Unless your frets, you know, are starting to look kind of dull, or you can actually see or feel some buildup on them, you probably don't really need to do this. And honestly, Scotch-Brite is better because it's non-magnetic. But I only happen to have steel wool at the moment. I need to order a new set of Scotch-Brite pads. Hey, Freezing Cathedral, yeah, pickup selector switch will be something we actually should probably spray it out too, because I think it's getting a little noisy. Lemon oil, though, honestly, I mean, like, most of the stuff that's sold as lemon oil, one, is not really lemon oil, and two, is pretty much unnecessary. You know, people over oil their fingerboards like crazy. You know, you might need to do it once or twice a year. Got a little bit of gunk on the board there. Hold on. Might need to get that off. Let me see if it'll come off with just a touch of this, or if I need to naphtha it. Yeah, it looks like it's coming off. This is synthetic steel wool. But this isn't abrasive enough to polish your frets with. But it's really good for getting little bits of finger gunk and whatnot off. Well, your rosewood is not very likely to dry and crack. Rosewood is extremely, extremely oily on its own, um, and it's very, very unlikely to dry and crack. It will get kind of dry looking, but honestly, if you play it a little bit, the color will start to come back. You oil it every time you play with your skin. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, honestly, the oils that come off of your fingers are ample for the majority of guitars. Big thing with ebony is that oiling it is not going to keep it from cracking because, again, oil is not adding water. Oil is adding oil. Um, the big thing with ebony is making sure you're keeping it in an environment where it's not getting too dry. You know, where you're maintaining a decent relative humidity. I think that looks pretty good. I think we've got, looks like we got all the finger gunk off of there. Use V8 oil. You play a song on stream, it's never your own material. Well, it will be eventually. Once we get to the point where I can actually record it and do stuff with it. Uh, though I don't really know how many people are going to like most of the stuff that I write, but you know, whatever. But you know, the component thing is more about breaking it down into components is more about my stream tends to be more kind of educational. I'm more interested in showing you how something is played, how it's put together, rather than just being, you know, a jukebox. There's plenty of people that can, you know, pull up Rocksmith or a tab or whatever and play back the song that you want. But to me, that's less compelling. Oh yeah, I do random, you know, random improvisation and ambient stuff. Though that's not my written music. All right. Let's see. All right, we can detape now. Hey, Smurfco, what's going on? What am I working on? You mean like what am I literally working on right now? We're restringing. I'm going to put new strings, some lighter strings on this. This had 10s on it from the previous owner. Oh, I haven't updated the guitar command. Hold on. This is an 88 Ibanez RG760 HP. There you go. Going to put some lighter strings on it, and so decided to just pull them off, polish the fretboard up, all that kind of stuff. Polish the guitar in general. This finish is called Heather Pearl. Only available on a few models. The 760, I think it might have been available for 1 year on the 550, or that might have been a finish that's very similar but not exactly the same. Not even playing. Yeah. What amp are you not playing through right now? But this is one of my favorite colors, one of my favorite Ibanez colors. Paul Gilbert had one. He had a 750 in this color, though I think his was essentially a one-off for him with a pickguard and 2 mini humbuckers, which is a really cool configuration. get wrecked. Go under here real quick. I actually picked up a pretty good bit from the mat. All right. Polishing cloth over here. Let me fold this over. And it's actually, this is bringing up some arm dirt. That's always fun. Yep. This came from NAMM Show, I think. Probably pick up some good dirt right here around the switch and knobs. Move this a little farther away. For learning to play by ear, it's literally just listening to music and sitting around and figuring it out. There's no magic trick to it. There's no magic bullet, unless you have perfect pitch. And I certainly don't have perfect pitch, and not many people do. And honestly, guitar sucks if you have perfect pitch because it's always out of tune. But it's literally just sitting there and listening to something, and then playing it back, playing that part back, play the part back, play the part back, play the part back, play the part back, till you get it, till you figure out what it is, till you work it out. That's where theory comes in handy, because if if you've learned enough scale positions and chord shapes and all voicings and that kind of stuff, you start to sort of go like, okay, wait a minute, I've heard that voicing before, I've heard that phrase, the way to play that line before in this scale, I've heard this sequence of notes before. But honestly, you can do it completely without it. You're still using those ideas, whether you know what they're called or not. But I mean, it's kind of a brute force type of thing. A lot of experience just transcribing. You just have to do it. What's the difference between a 550 and a 760? So the 7 series was the higher end line at the time in the late 80s to about 93-ish, 94-ish, thereabouts. The chassis shape is the same, like the body shape is the same, but the 7 Series has an alder body. The 5 Series has a basswood body. The 7 Series all have the shark tooth inlays on the neck, and they all, except for the 770DX, they all have rosewood fingerboards. The 770DX has a maple fingerboard with color matched inlays and binding, which is really cool. The second number, the middle digit and the final digit tend to or the middle digit indicates the pickup configuration and how they're mounted usually. So a 550 means it's going to have a single hum configuration mounted to a pick guard. The 750 has the same configuration mounted to a pick guard. And I have a 750, a black 750, and a 550 as well. So they're equivalent pickup layout wise. They have different pickups. The 7 Series have a higher end pickups, these USA DiMarzio made pickups in them, while the 5 Series predominantly have the V Series, which are basically the Japanese OEM versions of the DiMarzios in them. But the basswood body on the 5 Series, alder body on the 7 Series. They have the same bridge. They have the same nut, that type of thing. Usually the 5 Series has plastic knobs. 7 Series has metal dome knobs. That varies, though, a little bit. There are some 7 Series which will have plastic knobs as well, depending on the year and I guess just whatever they happen to have in the factory at that given moment. 7 Series has binding on the neck. 5 Series doesn't. The 60, the 6 in the middle, means we have single hum. So there was an RG760 as well, which would have been this shape, basswood body, predominantly rosewood fingerboards, but there was a 560M, which had a maple fingerboard, dot inlays, single hum. That would have been an S1, and V8 pickup, I think, stock. It might have been V2 the very first year, but then it was V8 later. But essentially, kind of higher end hardware, usually nicer wood. 760 has basswood. Nah, the 7 Series, at least in the early years anyway, were all alder. They may have changed that towards the end, and I think they changed that in the reissue too. The 770 reissue, I believe, was changed to basswood. But just all around, the 7 Series have higher appointments. They're basically a step up in terms of their appointments. The aesthetic appointments, and then the hardware like the pickups and knobs and whatnot. Though the bridge themselves, the really important thing, the edge trim, is still the same on both of them. In fact, I just found earlier today a receipt for a 560 that I bought at a pawn shop. What year? 2006. I bought a 560 at a local pawn shop for $135 with a case. Then I think I sold it for $300 maybe a couple years later, because I didn't like the color. I didn't like black. So I still had it to be worth, twice that probably. Alright, so body's looking pretty polished up. Maybe we go with this horn a little bit more up here. In between the pickups a little bit. A little bit better. Then we'll do the back. Let me see something real quick. No, it was slightly too early. Itchy nose. So this would be 89, 90. Interesting. So they did transition. Oops, wrong thing. What year, though? Where'd it go? Let me find. So it looks like they did transition at some point from alder to basswood, or the other way around. If I can find what year. I'll have to do that later though, because it's slow. Computer is not taking it well. But it may have been from like 88 to 89. Now this is an 88. This is like, I think, the first year for the 7 series. But they're not included in the 88 catalog. And I think it was on Ibanez Rules. I think maybe Rich or somebody on Jim's site said that they were alder. So maybe it changed. From the first year to the second. Probably pretty good there. Let's do the horn. Don't get too excited. The 88 Artist Spirit catalog. Send it to me. I'd like to see that. I'll see if I can find where I read that. So I'm pretty sure it was Rich. Why would you want full excitement? Why would you want Ibanez over Jackson? Well, so if you want like a US Jackson, you're going to pay a lot more for it, unless you just get really lucky. They tend to be like, if you consider the sort of iconic models like the Rhodes or the Soloist or something like that, they're neck throughs. They did make bolt-ons. They made bolt-on strats. They made the Dinky model, which sort of is roughly similar body shape to this. They have a bit different neck profiles. I like the neck profiles on the neck through ones for the most part. I'm not a big fan of their bolt-on neck profiles, but you know, that's a personal taste kind of thing. They have a bit different hardware. The Ibanezes, or the Japanese Ibanezes anyway, tend to have Goto made hardware as far as like your bridge and your nut and your tuners, that kind of stuff. Usually the US Jacksons will have Schaller made either OFRs, or the early ones actually, if they have a trim, most of the time they'll have a Kaler. You had to custom order and supply the Floyd yourself if you wanted a Floyd on the early San Dimases. Since the Ontario era, though, the majority of them with trims tend to have a Floyd on them. Usually a Schaller-made Floyd, either a JT590 or on, well, the USA ones I don't think ever had the 580. Some of the Japanese ones also had one called the JT6, which had barrel fine tuners on the back, which I hate, but some people like it because it makes the bridge a little bit more low profile. The early Japanese professionals are really, 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 really good. They're basically identical to the US Jacksons, but they've gotten to where they cost almost as much. The later professionals are still good quality, but they don't have quite the same like hardware quality. They don't have ebony boards as a rule, that kind of stuff. They just got a little different vibe. You know, something like my early Rhodes, like I have Rhodes 60 on the bench over there from 83. Totally different thing from like a Rhodes that you would pick up, like an RR1 you would pick up off the shelf. And most of the Jacksons up until the Ontario era, and really even then up until the early 90s, were basically all custom ordered. So you can see a really wide variety of colors and pickups and other stuff like that. They, in the early mid 90s, they kind of standardized the model line a little bit more. Now they're pretty tiny as far as the US shop goes. They're basically just the custom shop. You know, like a tiny handful of guys apparently tucked away into some corner of the fender factory. Yeah, the Japanese pros, I mean, even the cheaper ones are still great quality. I've owned a ton of them. The early pros, though, the very first ones, like 90, 91-ish, are essentially identical to the US ones in almost every way, which is apparently why they stopped making them, because they were undercutting themselves. All right, your headstock up here, and they've gotten pretty collectible. Especially the Warrior. They made a Warrior professional, and the Warrior is one of the rarer body shapes, and they've gotten to where they bring like $1,500, $2,000. Same with the professional Phil Collins arch tops. They bring pretty big money in and of themselves, like nearly as much as the US ones. In the Charvel territory. Yeah, so I mean the Japanese Charvels from 86 on essentially transitioned into and were replaced effectively by the Japanese professional line. Before that, when you're talking about USA Charvels, those are a bit of a different thing. You know, they tend to be straight up super strat types. There are Stars and Explorers and, you know, what have you, a couple other different body shapes, a few Tellys out there. But for the most part, they're a traditional strat body with usually, you know, hotter pickups, crazy paint jobs, various like big brass bridges and hardware, stuff like that, whatever you wanted to order from them. All right. A little bit of something on there. Probably good enough. All right, let me take a quick bathroom break, and then we'll start getting the strings on here. BRE. That was better. That tea accumulated. I have a cream Model 1. I used to have a Model 2 that was wonderful. I wish I'd never traded it off. A sort of a Ferrari red Model 2 with a Floyd. Had a few others too. Had a Spectrum. Had a couple Fusions, Japanese Fusions. Had a Fusion bass, which was really neat. What else? And two or three others probably. Had an early first year Jackson Stealth Professional, which is kind of cool. That was kind of their attempt to go after the Ibanez S, which I wound up selling to a buddy. Yep, we were talking about that earlier. Apparently, PogChamp is no more. The guitars really matter that much. Depends on what you're doing. Depends on what you're doing. You know, if you're playing with tons and tons and tons of gain or lots of effects and processing, something like that, the guitar doesn't really matter as much as having the right kind of pickups, the right kind of setup, etc., and the right amp for it. If you're playing very, very clean, you can most definitely tell the difference between different guitars. I would say it is a better advice to invest in a better amp versus a better and more expensive guitar. When it comes time to make a big upgrade, you know, a $300 or $400 guitar is going to sound better through $1,000 amp than a $1,000 guitar is through a $300 or $400 amp for the most part. Well, the amp itself, the power amp, becomes a lot more important with certain types of amplifiers. You know, amps that are not based on preamp distortion. You know, on generating lots and lots of gain from the preamp. For instance, in Tweed type amps, non-master volume amps, the power amp becomes really significant because it comes into play in generating the overdrive of the amp and a lot in the feel of the amp too. You know, a cathode bias power section is going to respond really differently under your fingers than a fixed bias power section, etc., etc. You know, a true single-ended Class A amp is going to respond very, very differently because of that power section than a Class A B amp. You know, or a cathode biased Class A, which is not really Class A, but that's what most of your Vox type amps are. You know, and especially as you get into high volume enough to where that power amp comes into play, the different power tube types and how they're biased makes a pretty big difference. You know, at low volumes, an EL34 versus a 6L6 isn't really all that different, but once you get it cranking, pretty different, and even more so when you start getting into KT66s and KT88s, or smaller bottles like 6V6s or EL84s. You know, it all depends on the type of music that you're playing, the type of amp that you need for the music that you're playing. Yeah. Did you sell? You put your black one up for sale, right? Is it sold yet? The Minions. I have one of the Ibanez Micros, which is kind of their version of that same thing. It's pretty hilarious. Your dad's built amps using EL84s. Some of the most famous and sought after EL84s actually came from Holland, from the Netherlands. Some of the old Amperexes. Dribbled a little water on my shirt. I'm pretty sure I got the micro. I'm pretty sure I got the micro out on stream at some point. Because I had the 550 out, and then I said check this out, and went and got the micro because my micro is it's a little more orange, but it's a very similar, very bright neon kind of color. Did I just drop one of the strings? Dang it. Oh no, there it is. It's still tied up. Okay. It's about to be annoyed. All right, so this is a 9 to 40 set. Balance tension set. I'm really interested to see how this behaves. You have to replace, yeah, if you replace that jack with a mono jack, then the battery is just going to be on all the time. All right, let me line my posts up. A little too far. One old Sovtech. You know, those were available for so long, for so cheap, and I passed dozens and dozens of them up at pawn shops and music stores for like, $200. And now they've suddenly gotten collectible. And even like EHX, who technically kind of essentially owns Sovtech now, has reissued them. They're a little bit different. Very close, but not quite the same. They're hilariously loud, though. We had a couple in the store that I was teaching at one of the loudest amps per dollar I think I've ever encountered. We have one customer who buys basically anything new that comes in, and he bought one of them. We told him, don't buy this. He just plays at his house, and mostly just kind of screws around with it. He just likes buying stuff. And he said, don't buy this amp. This amp is ludicrously loud. This 100 watt non-master volume or whatever amp. Don't buy this amp. And he bought it anyway, and then 2 days later he brought it back and said, I'm not allowed to have this amp. Can I return it? Apparently he offended his wife's sensibilities with the sheer volume of the thing. Yeah, I think there's like the doom and stoner metal guys that have really driven the prices up for him. Same with Suns. You used to be able to get Sun stuff really cheap. All right, let's see. Now I'm putting these, when I'm using really light strings like this, I just put the ball end in up at the headstock. If I were using heavier strings for whatever reason, going up to 10s or 11s, then I wouldn't. I'd wind them on normally and wind them around the post, because the winds at the ball end aren't flexible enough on the heavier strings really to wind properly. But on light strings, I'll just slide the ball end up here. I know some people hate the way it looks, but it doesn't bother me. All right, so then I'm going to bring it down to the saddle. Go just a little bit past the saddle. Crimp it down like that, so I've got a little bend in the string. Snip it. Then I'll lock it back. Let me tighten that up this way first. That should be good. Don't worry, these saddles are getting a little pitted, so hopefully they don't split in half as we're tightening them up. Went to a Sun show once. I've never seen them live, but I've seen enough live videos to where you pretty much know that's what it's going to be. There's just so much sound. So much sound. Yeah, I mean, even the solid state amps. I bought, you know, mid 2000s, I bought a Sun Beta 15 powered cab for like $15 or something like that, and then sold it a couple years ago for $400 or thereabouts. Bought a broken Sun. I think it was an Alpha, whatever the like 150-watt solid state head was. I think it was all jacked up. Bought that for like $10 at a yard sale. Sold it a couple years ago on eBay for like $200. Because that whole crowd is just like super into that stuff, and the tube amps have gotten ridiculous, especially the Model Ts. Dude, Zach, Florida Vanilla, what is going on, my man? Thank you so much for that resub. How are you? I'm going to wind this on a little bit. I'm not going to tune it up yet. Alrighty. Where'd I put them? Oh, they're under the guitar. Where'd they go? Yeah, get those emotes. Going to the sun show is for your hearing as staring into a laser pen is for your vision. No tuning, just play them as is. I actually do that quite a lot. It's really fun. You can get some really fun percussive kind of stuff going on. I like how this water drop, I drank from my water bottle and dropped like a little droplet of water onto my shirt, and it's actually like expanding now, saturating my entire shirt. That's the B string. Get in there. Stay. Come on. I wish on the little Ibanez multi-tool here, I wish they would have included a shorter wrench for your various Floyd nuts. They included a couple shorter ones, but they're both smaller. It would be way easier to use for stuff like this if they gave you one that was like that. Way easier. Whole shirt will just evaporate. Wet shirt contest. Well, considering I'm the only person here, that's for the OnlyFans. Keep losing where I put the individual strings, you know. So there's the B string. Get these over here out of the way. Time you knocked over a glass of orange juice and a quarter came out. Huh. How big was the glass, I guess, is the important question. here comes. No, oh, you're going to cooperate. Thank Jesus. She's one of my least favorite things about changing strings on a guitar with a Floyd and a string tree. It's trying to get the friggin' end of the string up into the nut slot in between the nut and the string tree. But that one just slid right up in there. So that was nice. Still not as annoying as restringing a Bigsby. Need to loosen that one up slightly more. Yeah, why did they think this was a good idea? There we go. Feels good. Get me if I'm wrong, a musician is one of the jobs that's AI proof. I mean, they're getting closer. You know, as you start to, they've started to develop algorithms that can imitate imperfection. YouTube channel that plays parts of a song doing AI. And that sounds pretty cool. Well, so classical music is easier to deal with in terms of an AI, especially, you know, things from like the actual classical period, because the way stuff was put together had, for the most part, very specific kinds of rules and approaches as far as time went, as far as harmony went, that kind of stuff. It would be more interesting to hear one attempt to make jazz. AIs can't make black metal because they don't know how to hate. That's what you think. That's what you think. Bigsby's are fun until they aren't. They tend to require so much fiddling and tweaking and modding to really optimize. They do have a unique sound, you know, the sort of wateriness of a Bigsby. Nothing else really does. But I find them a pain in the butt, I say as I fiddle with a Floyd Rose. That string. Something you got to watch out for, especially with the plain strings. They'll get themselves twisted around, and you definitely don't want that. So a twisted string will not intonate properly. depends. Some musicians, their strength is the fact that they know how to manipulate time. They know how to play around where the beat should be. They know when and where and how to push and pull to make something more compelling. Hey, I'll never be able to write proper lyrics. I don't know. That's a more interesting one to think about. Because lyric writing in some genres is pretty formulaic. Even in the sort of classics or the great works of those genres. And an AI could probably figure out how to do it. Most people don't care, don't know the music they're listening to is. Yeah, I mean, if they can work out an AI, if they can work out an AI that churns out 4-chord pop songs, then it's all over. Which, I mean, really they should be able to do, given the homogeneity of pop music, whether it be rock, country, pop explicitly, over the last 25 years or so. Classical music is boring and awful. Oh, cool. I'll check it out. The Discord up, I think. Come on. Load. Oh, dude, that's pretty sweet. Got the maple board and everything. Usually, you tend to only see the maple board on the single ones. Friggin' nice. I said, I wish I had my Model 2 back. I wish I'd never traded that off. I traded it. What did I trade that for? I can't remember. I either traded it towards a USA Fusion, Jackson Fusion, or a PV Destiny Custom. I can't remember. But one or the other. Plus the Model 2, which I bought the Model 2 for like $75 at a pawn shop in the middle of nowhere, in the Georgia countryside, just kind of like leaning in the corner of the pawn shop. Then I traded that and maybe $150 or something for the other guitar. And honestly, both of those guitars, the Destiny Custom was gorgeous, but never really cared for the feel of the neck on it. Like, it had absolute railroad ties for frets, which to me, the frets were so big that they actually got in the way of playing. Like, I like fairly large frets, but I like them kind of low, and these things were just like, these huge bumps. And then the Fusion, again, I have a hard time with Jackson's bolt-on neck profiles, both the Fusions and the Dinkies, and the Stealths consistently. Like, the way they taper doesn't fit my hand right, so I wound up selling that to a guy in Chattanooga. Oh Lord. ordered a Blue Sky. The Blue Sky is a nice pedal. A guy that owned a store that I used to work at had one on his board forever, and it was a great sounding pedal. Great sounding pedal. What do you think of Warlocks? Dude, we talked about Warlocks a bunch. I prefer Warlocks with the earlier BC Rich headstocks. I have no interest in them with the Widow headstock whatsoever. But with the early 6 on a side, non-pointy headstock, or the 3x3 headstock, I think they look pretty great. And I wouldn't mind owning one like an 83, 84, thereabouts. Or, I mean, earlier, but those are expensive, really expensive. Have the front be more ambient. You should check out then. You should check out the Maris Mercury 7. I have one of those, but that's the guys that founded Strymon. That's the reverb they currently make at their current endeavor, and it's just pure ambient. Less useful for normal reverbs, like the Blue Sky you can still use in normal context pretty easily. But the Mercury 7 was designed around these big kind of reverb pads that you hear in like the Blade Runner soundtrack, stuff like that. And boy, oh boy, does it get ambient. One more. Where are you? Nice. Came through without any trouble. Would you please get down in there? Get down in there. Having a hard time holding on to this one for some reason. You loosen that up a little bit more. Block is slid forward a touch too. Let's back it up a little. Set it at an angle a little bit. There we go. Snug it up. Wind it up. So should I play it completely untuned? Just sounds like Primus if you do that. Let's see. I don't think the amp's even turned on. The B string is for some reason much higher than all the others. There's a bend just by pressing the string down against the fret. You have both hands, what, like 8-finger tapping type stuff? We were just talking about that in the Discord earlier. All those seconds between the strings. How hot that bridge pickup is. Neck pickup. Bridge pickup. let's unblock it and start getting it tuned up and balanced. Unless we put our knobs back on too. Fingers are getting really cold. Might have to make a little truss rod tweak too. I'm not sure, going down from 10s to 9s. I don't know how stable this particular neck is. It hasn't moved a whole lot since I've owned it. Let's see. This is the most exciting part. Also the most nerve-wracking part when you bring the high E up. Alright, so we're pretty close. I'm gonna have to take some off the springs. One thing I do once I start to get it close, in particular, I'll bring the strings a little bit sharp from where they're supposed to be, so that as I tune the other strings up, it'll start pulling them down a little bit less till eventually they kind of reach equilibrium. And the string will actually be pulled down in tune at roughly the float that I want. that's something you kind of learn to intuit over time. The G is dropping a lot. So what was this gauge again? This is 9, 12, 15, 22, 30, and 40. It's kind of interesting. Getting close. And notice I mentioned before that I'm tuning in pairs. So tune the E's, A and B, D and G, and then back out. Always tuning in pairs to make sure that the Floyd stays balanced. Right. All right. So that's basically in tune. Yeah, it depends on the tuning you're going for, the string gauge that you're using, the number of springs you have. Sometimes the E and G, I find, especially if you're going for drop tunings in particular, the 6th string and the 3rd string will really, really affect each other. So, but for standard, and especially with like 9s or 10s, tend to just pair, sort of in and out in pairs. All right. So I'm guessing we're going to need to let just a hair off our springs. I need better lights. Yep, just a hair, not much. Not quite as much as I thought we would, so that's nice. So I'm gonna go take just a tad of tension off the trim springs. I should have dropped this flat a little bit. You do them all sort of like sort of stair stepped. Da 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 da. The best thing to do once you've got it set up, next time you change strings, use the same strings and then just replace them one at a time, so you don't have to go through the whole tuning process again. But since we took them completely off and are changing gauge, you're gonna have to go through the whole sequence. Yeah, I mean it'll tune whatever. It'd probably be a little bit difficult to use with your voice because it's so sort of twitchy and sensitive. You'd want something that's a little, actually probably a little bit slower. This is a strobe tuner. But you can tune whatever with it. Just about there. A little bit closer here. Right. Yeah, definitely just about there. Yeah, it looks good. Now I got to see if the neck has moved at all. Neck looks okay. We might have to raise the bridge ever so slightly. But let's lock the nut down. If I can get a hold of the pad. And some. I thread them by hand and then just snug them with the wrench rather than cranking on them. Seem pretty clean. Seem pretty clean all the way up. So that's a good sign. Let me clean up these string ends. Come over here. All right, I think we're about ready to plug it in. Let me take another quick bathroom break, and then we'll plug it in. Alrighty. Let's touch too high. Let's drop down to the lower one. There we go. Probably need to tweak the tuning a little bit more too, since we just clamped it. But no, not yet. So this is very, very, very low. Even with the bridge pickup is basically flush with the ring now. You still get that out of it. Need to bring these single coils up a little bit. Get in there. It sounds like I might need to bring the bridge itself up just a hair. Got a little bit of rattle coming through. Yep. Let's bring this up a little bit more. A little bit in the middle pickup too. Though I usually keep the middle pickup a good bit lower than the neck pickup because it gets in the way. Just physically don't like feeling the middle pickup. Come on now. Any good movies? The last two movies I watched were Kill List, which was Ben Wheatley's second or third movie, which I absolutely love. I've seen it before, but it's still just phenomenal, absolutely phenomenal. Uh, and then I watched an Australian movie called Newsfront, which was really interesting. It was a really interesting film. Um, Kind of about the change from the newsreel era to the television news era. It would probably be even more interesting if I knew more about like mid-century Australian history, because that's kind of what it deals with, or the events around them that it's dealing with. But overall, like a very interesting film aesthetically. It feels almost prototypical of Mad Men, the way Mad Men sort of tracks these changes over time in their industry, and the sort of cultural changes around the characters, and that it uses actual archival footage sort of interspersed seamlessly with the actual film components that are telling the story of the characters. The action is super, 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 super low right now. So I may have to. I'm gonna watch it, see tomorrow how the neck settles. It doesn't look like it's moving much at all yet, but see if the neck settles at all. If I need to tweak the truss rod at all, and then I'll probably bring the bridge up a tiny, tiny, tiny bit just to get a hair more clearance. Because right here around the middle of the neck, here we're getting a little bit of buzz, a little bit of rattle. Still haven't seen Eurovision Fire Saga. Yeah, that one's not really on the list. When you get the Tati, is the first one? The first one is Monsieur Hulot's Holiday, right? I mean, I don't think they're necessarily chronologically related. Like you don't need to watch one before you watch the others, but I think that's the first one. I don't think I ever promised to watch it. I might have said, yeah, I'll look at that. Then you guys posted some stuff about it in the Discord, and I was like, bruh. Well, I mean, they're connected in as much as, you know, they're the same character and the same director. I don't think the stories are connected in any particular way. But, you know, start with the first one. How does it compare to key? It's it's different. It's less. I want to say it's more subtle in a sense. And the interesting thing about the character of Hulot is that he's not really the one doing anything. He's kind of the straight man in all of it. You know, he's this like slightly bumbling kind of statuesque figure who just happens to be there when kind of silly and weird things happen around him. You know, rather than being sort of the center of all of the action in the way that a Buster Keaton or a Harold Lloyd or a Tramp or somebody would be. Rip your slide. R.I.P. slides. You're logging keep? Okay, cool, dude. Thanks for hanging out. It's about time to log off anyway. It's after midnight now. So we'll be logging off shortly. I might plug this into an amp with some overdrive just to see how it handles. But we'll catch you next time. I'll play the J.J. Cale version, the original one. After midnight, we gonna let it all hang. After midnight, we gonna shake and move and shout. His version's a lot more mellow than the cover, as are pretty much all of his original versions. With chorus on the middle pickup, I'll have to hook up a chorus pedal real quick, but I can, yeah. Let's see. I actually think the middle pickup still needs to come up a hair. Let's get a different screwdriver to get one with a slightly slimmer shaft. There, that should be good. So we'll use this Ibanez Session Man. It's actually slightly older than the guitar. Would have been available around the same time period. All our different cables up. Sure has really noisy wheels. So there's our neck pickup. up. Middle and bridge. Bridge. Let's try it with some overdrive now. Fun thing about the Session Man is that we have that in the box too. Crispy. You can also get a metric crap ton of gain out of this thing. You're used to how it feels with nines now, though. All right, then we can go. Gain plus chorus. And this really is 80s in a box. Almost. It's pretty close. The pedal's a little bit darker and it doesn't have the pearl sparkle in it. You can also do a weird thing with this where you can have the distorted guitar and the clean chorused guitar in parallel with each other. Quite enough gain for that. Yeah, choking out a little bit. So it's definitely going to have to come up a little bit at the bridge. Hear that little bit of choke on the bends. But I mean, it's crazy, 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 crazy low at the moment. was that Enough's Enough? Who was that? Mr. Big. fizzy. That's a cool sound. Oh, you guys got a whole conversation going on. I haven't been looking. Gilbert or Betancourt? I think personally, I have to go with Paul Gilbert. I think the stuff that he's done has held up better from a general musical perspective. You know, they're both absolutely ridiculous players. Absolutely ridiculous. But I think Paul Gilbert's probably made, on the balance, the better music. And I'm pretty sure I saw them play something together. It might have been like a one-off concert or something, but I'm pretty sure I saw them do something together. Still waiting for the day everybody realizes that Romeo is just another level musician, not just a guitarist. Gonna have to get convince more people to listen to Symphony X or whatever in order to get that to happen. And I think that's kind of a hard sell for today's audiences. Collaboration he did with some lady some years ago and was playing very boring music. That's really specific. Some lady making boring music. Some lady some years ago making boring music. Wake up, have coffee, sit in your basement in New Jersey. Well, see, that's the problem. You have to be in New Jersey. Yeah, kinda. I mean, I've already got lots of pieces of things written. But need to be putting them all together, making complete pieces of music out of them. Oh, what about making the PC? I think you'll find that I'm broadly an uncooperative person. That I tend to kind of do things on my own timeline. Like I have to sit and think and research and think about stuff and think about it some more, and then research it some more and then think about it a little bit more. And then think about like, hey, maybe it's almost time to buy something. And then by the time it's time to buy something, something new has come out, and so I have to think about that instead. All right. It's about 12:30. We should probably wrap it up. Got the strings on, got it tuned up, got it pretty much balanced. It's going to need a couple more little tweaks. I have to raise the bridge, maybe a millimeter or so, tiny bit. Probably not even that much. Just to get a little bit more clearance and get rid of that choking. Doesn't look like we're going to need to tweak the truss rod, but we might. But I probably won't do that on the stream. I'll just tweak that all over the next couple days. I'll be back Friday at 9 with... What is this Friday supposed to be? Does anybody know? I've lost track now. We've got so many different themes and stuff we've cycled through. I don't even know what we're doing. Oh yeah, I saw the catalogs. I'll check them out when we get done here. No, I mean like our theme. I can't remember if we're supposed to be on like a Friday night funk or a Friday night jazz or a free for all Friday or what. Something with pedals. Well, we can't do. I don't have the power supply, so we can't do pedals. Remember the multi-pedal power supply broke. Hence the donation goal. Because I don't have the outlets to plug in a whole bunch of different AC adapters. last week was free for all. Okay, so then we're due either a Friday night jazz or a Friday night funk bass stream, or I mean we've done a bunch of different Friday night variations. I don't know. Let me know what you guys think in the Discord. What are you in the mood for? Let me know what you guys want so I can completely disregard that. Friday Night Fusion. Yeah, we barely even got to do that because somebody jumped in with a donation for Megadeth. Friday Night Folk. Just do all folk music. Yeah, with no effects. Just play raw acoustic guitar. I do really like this sound though, man. Okay, but yeah, we'll be back Friday with something, If you have a particular one or a particular theme that you're interested in me doing, just let me know in the Discord. Make sure, if you're not in the Discord, that you get in the Discord. Gregorian chant. Oh, we can do Tuvan throat singing. Yodel Fest. There's a local radio station that has a Yodel Rama for their fundraiser every year, where they have like a whole day of yodeling music and have live yodelers in the studio. That might be a little bit much for a 3-hour stream, though. But check out the socials, too. Check out the YouTube, the Instagram, the Twitter, if you want to get tweets for whenever I go live. Hopefully you've got the alert thing on in Twitch, so you get an annoying email every time I go live. But I'll be back Friday at 9 p.m. approximately. Always approximately. And we'll be doing something cool, something fun, as always. But thank you guys for hanging out. I'm going to go fix something to eat. See you later.